So I will just start out by telling you I'm not that great of a public speaker. I tend to talk really fast, and so if you need me to slow down, just tell me to be quiet. My name is Whitney Dill. I'm the nursing home administrator at Sunporch of Smith County. On here as well is Rachel Mull, our assistant director of nursing and social services designee, and Cherise Heilman, who's our activities director and our dietary manager. So I've been at Sunporch for about 8 years now. Prior to being the administrator, I was the ADON and certified dietary manager until I got my administration license in 2022. We actually moved to our new campus in 2019. Prior to this, we were in a traditional nursing facility attached to a hospital. These are not actual pictures of the long term care facility because honestly, I couldn't find any, but the overall appearance and feel are the same. The hallways are long and institutional, the walls are drab and dull. The nurse's station stands out and makes everything feel medical. The rooms were small and often shared. We moved to our new campus in October of 2019. I believe any of us that are still here remember this day well because it was an absolute nightmare. It rained all day, everyone was anxious, including our elders, and we were completely uprooting everything we knew and starting over. I was not alone in my skepticism about this. I had worked in the traditional model for 2 decades prior to this and never really felt there was a need for change. We had long term staff that had already made it known I'm not cooking or I'm not cleaning, and we did lose several staff for this reason. But sometimes things need to change. The first few weeks were brutal. I can remember our DON being there from early in the morning until very late at night, helping our nurse get used to the new routine. The medications are stored in the elder's bedroom instead of the traditional cart. There were two separate houses, so they had to go from one to the other to utilize new equipment in each home. It was a definite learning curve, but not nearly as bad as our direct caregivers. We went from 3 CNA staff caring for 22 elders, care needs, since we had to decrease census prior to moving, to 4 universal workers taking care of all the cares, nutrition, housekeeping, laundry, and activities. It was rough, I'm not going to lie. But after a few weeks, things got easier, and the ones that were pumping the brakes of change were out the door. Plus, I feel like we prepared as best as we could by producing simplified menus for the first couple of weeks and maintaining our dietary staff to assist with the transition, not to mention the department leader's presence and assistance during this time. Sunporch was a new and unique style of long term care. The elders were able to enjoy private room with private bathroom. They had the freedom to move around the building with very few areas that were off limits, including outdoors. They could watch the staff while they prepared meals. They could sit with the nurse in the open office and socialize. One thing that we were amazed by was after we moved, how quickly the elders adapted compared to some of the staff. The elders seemed calmer. Families commented on how different the environment felt the minute they walked in the door. Instead of hearing overhead paging systems and carts rolling down long hallways, they heard conversation, laughter, music, and cooking. It felt like a home instead of a facility. That was probably the first moment many of us realized this model really could work. The greenhouse model features small homes. Each of our homes houses 11 elders. They are vibrant and homelike, making them look and feel nothing like an institution. The hallways are short and the rooms are located around the central living area, just like at home. You look out your bedroom door into the dining room or living room. There are open spaces for privacy or public spaces for socialization. They all feature a home like feel. The elders are encouraged and assisted to decorate their rooms how they like. The bathrooms are private, so as they would be in your own home. We provide skilled nursing services just like any other skilled nursing facility and pride ourselves on positive outcomes for patients returning to the community, although we have had many that have opted to stay. Our outdoor spaces are a huge hit. Our elders and staff spend a lot of time outdoors enjoying the weather. The outdoor spaces have also helped tremendously with behaviors and emotional well-being. We have elders that may be anxious or upset, and simply stepping foot outside for fresh air can completely change their mood. Families enjoy sitting outside with their loved ones, especially during the holidays and warmer months, and it gives them a sense of normalcy that traditional facilities often struggle to provide. Instead of visiting in a small room or hallway, they can sit outside together just like they would at home. Then there was the idea of the universal worker, which was beyond unfathomable. Why would we take people away from things that they were good at and make them all be good at everything? instead of being good at laundry, housekeeping, elder care, dietary, customer service, or restorative. This is why. Our elders are happy. Not all of them all 100% of the time, but nobody's happy 100% of the time. In the 7 years since we moved to the campus, I can only count one person that was truly unhappy with us, and she was not going to be happy anywhere but at home. Of course, when they come in, they're not always eager to be here, but this environment and new way of providing long term care have proved successful time and time again. I also think the small environment helps reduce confusion and overstimulation for many elders, especially those living with dementia. In a traditional facility, there are constant noises, different staff, long hallways, and a lot of movement. In our homes, things are calmer and more predictable. The same staff are usually present, the environment stays consistent, and the elders become comfortable with their routines. Families often tell us their loved ones seems more relaxed and engaged after moving in. We have 7 full-time staff in each building. They know their elders. Think about it. They're doing their cares, activities, meals, laundry, housekeeping. How could they not learn everything about them? They are with them on the good days and the bad days and learn what makes things better and what makes things worse. The relationships built in this model are completely different than what I experienced earlier in my career. Our staff know what time an elder likes to wake up, how many drink their coffee, what TV shows they enjoy, and when something just seems off, even before medical issues become obvious. Those little details matter. They build trust and dignity. It stops feeling like task based care and becomes truly person centered care. I'd love to say that all of this went smooth and we have never had a staffing issue, but that would be a huge lie. Not only have we ran into instances where a good employee was not willing to be a universal worker due to lack of skill or desire to be a cook or a housekeeper, but also those that just weren't capable of it. Then you had to throw COVID in that mix, which completely changed healthcare in a way that will never be the same. We were lucky not to have to use very much agency, but we did here and there. Our department leaders worked a lot of hours on the floor as well, because even with agencies calling every other day offering services, they generally have no clue what part of very rural America we live in. We have had turnover, which is always hard. But typically, the turnover we have had is meant to be, and the ones that were dedicated to us and our model of care are still with us. We have CNAs that have worked for this company for over 25 years. Our clinical department leader team has over 100 years of long term care experience between us all. Pictured is our peak team. Over half of them have been with us at Sunporch since we moved into our new facility. That alone shows the dedication of our staff. Our office staff have had some turnover, but we have rehired for those positions and we have changed the roles around. Our current dietary manager was the social services and activities director. She has very strong connections to the community, so the activities director fit, but social services just wasn't her thing. By asking questions, we learned that she used to successfully run a restaurant for years in town. She agreed to try the dietary manager role and has done an outstanding job with the budget and customer satisfaction. Our ADON has the absolute biggest heart you will ever find, almost too big sometimes because she can't say no. But she is a perfect fit for the social services role. I think that has been a huge part of our overall success. So, why do our staff stay? The staff that stick with us typically do it because they have worked in traditional nursing homes and they see the difference. We have had many staff come to us from other facilities that are blown away at our model of care. The fact that the elders come first in each situation, their needs are met, and the staff actually care about outcomes and will advocate for elders to an alarming extent. We offer self scheduling. The DON puts a blank schedule out each month in each home, and for the nurses, they're able to fill the days that work best for them. The DON is able to ensure the shifts are filled and not overstaffed, and then send the remaining hours to our PRN pool. We are a very small facility, which means we don't have a lot of staff. Staff get used to working with the same people day to day. We have several that prefer not to cook and have made arrangements with coworkers to take on more of the housekeeping and cares to avoid the kitchen. We have not really had any fallout because of this. We offer 8 or 12 hour shifts to try to meet everyone's needs and abilities, and are also vigilant to watch our long term staff to see if a transition to our neighboring assisted living might be a better fit, because we all know being a CNA in a long term care facility is very hard work, physically and mentally. One thing that Sunporch offers is that we do not work short. Our houses are staffed with one nurse 24 hours a day, two universal workers per home per every day and evening shift, and one universal worker per home for the night shift. If someone calls in there is no one to pick up the shift, every single person in our office, besides the maintenance man, is a CMA or higher. We have a rotating call, which means someone is always available to cover when needed. I do think this has made a huge deal with our staff morale and retention. Each one of our department heads are rounding in the homes multiple times per day. We are in the elders' room. We are talking to the direct caregivers and families constantly. We are assisting elders to the bathroom or helping with transfers if that is what they are needing when we're visiting them. We do not just simply go tell the direct caregiver to do it. We hear horror stories from staff coming in of having to work one CNA to 30 elders. That's not reasonable, nor is it safe. Another strong benefit we can provide is we teach CNA and CMA classes right here on campus. One of our RNs that retired from us has been having classes at least 2 times per year. I feel like this gives brand new healthcare workers a chance to see how we operate. And even if they don't ultimately come to work for us due to contracts or distance, they have seen the difference and they take that with them. We have had to stay competitive with our wages. We typically check around with other rural homes to see if we are comparable because when eggs are $5 a dozen, people have to be able to feed their families no matter where their moral compass lies. I think another huge factor in staff retention is feeling appreciated and supported. Healthcare has been extremely difficult the last several years, and burnout is very real. We try very hard to make sure our staff know they matter too. We celebrate accomplishments, work around family schedules when possible, and step in to help when things get difficult. I would never ask my staff to do something I wouldn't do myself. I think when staff feel respected and supported, they're more likely to stay and give better care to our elders. I have heard of several new greenhouse or small home type facilities opening up and have heard very few that have successfully made the universal worker role work. They have maintained dietary and housekeeping staff. I know change is hard, but it is possible. I strongly believe that if you are paying someone $18+ per hour to do things like housekeeping, dietary, and laundry, you are bound to see better results. I have personally seen this. I know it's hard to believe you can find enough people capable of checking all these boxes, but it is if you can get your head wrapped around it. At Sunporch, we offer Relias training as well as Surf Safe training for all universal workers to attempt to teach the things that are outside the standard CNA course. All of our full-time staff are Surf Safe certified for food safety and take training for this once per year, along with housekeeping training. Our current chemical provider comes in once a year during our house meetings and does continued education with the staff on chemical use and manufacturers' instructions for housekeeping and laundry. Activities is probably our biggest struggle because not everyone has the bubbly personality of an activities director. And that is not really a skill you can just teach, but it is a work in progress, and we'll get there. If you would have asked me years ago if I believed this model could work, I honestly would have probably said no. I was comfortable with the traditional way because it was what I knew. But now, after seeing the difference firsthand for both elders and staff, I truly cannot imagine going back. It has completely changed the way I view long term care. I hope this can help others in their quest to better the services provided in their long term care facilities. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Are Charisse and Rachel, are you guys both on?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you guys. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, first off, and then kind of tell us about what challenges you faced, as you guys kind of went through these changes, and yeah, we'll just start right there with those two questions. Whoever wants to go
Um,
first.
I'm Charisse Heilman. I am the activities, dietary, and fundraising. I worked at the traditional long-term care when we were at the hospital, and I did move over here with them, and I've been here ever since. It was a big change, but I love it. It's totally worth it. You know, they'd have a room, but you'd have to take them down the hall to take a shower. Here, they've got a shower in their room. I don't know. It's amazing. And there are a lot of people that don't think that it will work. And if they would just try it, if people would just try it, it is so much better. It's so much better for the elders. the workers. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes, I agree. I'm Rachel Mall. I'm the Social Services and Assistant Director of Nursing here. I've been in this role for about, I think, going on 2 years now. But I started my nursing career actually at this facility on night shift. When I first started, I remember thinking, this is awesome. Like, I loved every bit of it. And then turned out nights didn't work out for me. So I ended up going to the other nursing home in town, which is more of the institutionalized, the long hallways, so now I worked there for years, and the difference is, I mean, there's no comparison. Um, the feel here when you walk into the houses is just, it's a feeling of home. I mean, we become family, basically that's what our homes are. It's just a big family. Yeah, everybody knowing what everybody else needs. And I don't know, I think the difference, I mean, it's well worth it. I think you should give it a shot if you think you'd love it. Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, like her and Whitney both said, universal workers spend more time with the same elders, which helps you to learn their preferences and routines and their needs, which keeps the residents more satisfied. You get closer, you get bonded with them because you know each other very well. So I don't know, it helps you to notice changes if they're slowly declining or getting sick. You're around them every day, so you see that stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of good things out of it.
Absolutely.
I have a question on how you do your universal scheduling. Do you have like where they have assignments for the day, assignments for the week, or they just plug in where they're needed?
So, like I said, we have 7 full-time in each house, so they pretty much stick to a very similar schedule. And then as far as like a housekeeping or a dietary, we have instructions every day of what needs to be done. For the most part, they don't like, well, I'm going to take these elders, I'm going to take these elders. We try to make it to where, it's just, if a call light goes off, if you're right there, go get it. It's not a, you get this one, I get that one type situation. We have had to go to that every once in a while with certain staff members, but it's definitely not something we're going to do long term with them. Does that answer your question?
No, my question was mainly like today you're cooking, today you're how do you figure out who's cooking for the day, who's cleaning for the day, or does everybody just pitch
So,
in where they're
like in our
needed?
house, we have 2 workers, and that's another perk of it. You work with the same people in your house, so you kind of everybody knows each other. So everybody just jumps in, and I mean, you just share everything. I mean, it's not really like
You're doing this today. I'm doing
yeah,
this
it's
today.
not like that. It's not task orientated. Everybody just jumps in and I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
for instance, we've got 2 of them in one of our homes that one gal, she loves doing like she wants to do everything in the kitchen. She does all the cooking, all the dishes. Then she goes out on the floor too. I mean, she's not afraid to do that. She's just very meticulous about how the kitchen runs, and the other 3 aides that would ever work with her, they know that. And so they just let her do her kitchen thing because she's very good at it. And then they may pick up a little bit more of the housekeeping or a little bit more of the elder care or something like that. There's only 4 of them on the day shift that would ever work, other than like if we had a PRN or someone was on vacation. So you're working with the same 3 people every day that you work.
This is Tammy. I just wanted to make a comment about the task division. Is I think one thing that the staff there at Smith do very well is that they model staff empowerment for our frontline workers, our universal workers. So because they are empowered as staff, they're able to come together as a team and decide, how they're going to divide their day, no matter who they're working with. And the the administrative team models that, it doesn't matter who gets credit for what, just that we're meeting the needs of our elders. And so I think that team model really just kind of lends into that task division. So they can be more relationship focused and task focused, even though they know tasks have to be completed. Um, Another thing that the team there hasn't mentioned is they do have meetings with the households so that they can make system changes if needed. And that doesn't mean that Whitney is making the changes. It means that the staff that actually are working in the homes can talk about problems or system issues and come together as a team and decide what needs to happen in the home. With Whitney and the administrative team, they're just as their kind of compass for regulation, basically. Did I say that right, Whitney?
Yeah, we still have a house meeting every month with each house. It's just kind of a time to get what systems aren't working, what systems are, what things are broke that nobody told us about type thing. But we do get a lot out of those meetings, and we've really strongly encouraged every staff member to be there. Even if it's via Zoom, we'll send them a Zoom link before the meeting, and that way we can get as many there as we can.
I think that is one thing that I hear from the staff at Sunporch Smith that I don't hear at some other locations is how empowered they feel as a staff member, that that people are letting them help make decisions about their workday. So, we really kind of look at, they are the folks that are closest to the elder, and so they should get the first say in system changes. And not every organization flows that way.
No,
I think
honestly,
that helps with them being happy.
yeah. I think like when I'm not trying to speak for Rachel or Charisse, but when I go in the houses, I don't necessarily go to the nurse to figure out what's going on. I go straight to the aides because they know they've gotten them up in the morning. They're going to be able to tell me if there's been a change or if there's a concern. I mean, the nurse probably knows too, but I'm going to get that better knowing from the CNAs that are working with them.
So we do have some more questions in the chat. How many elders do you have in each home?
We have 11 in each home, so we have 22 total.
The next question is, what are the options when you're unable to fix the layout to the building? So that might be more of just a general Pete question. But if you have any input or advice that you might recommend from your
I mean,
team.
it would be hard to do a universal worker in a traditional model for sure. I do think you probably could eliminate a lot of your departments except maybe dietary. I mean, that'd be just be my opinion. But I mean, just getting your staff to where not having those departments is so nice because you don't have, well, dietary messed this up today or housekeeping didn't clean this room today. If something goes wrong, it's all on the people that are the direct caregivers because they're in charge of everything. So they can't really, there is no blame to have on anybody else. So if you can eliminate any of those departments, see if your housekeepers will get their CNA certificates. That's kind of what we did when we moved. Let's try to get all those departments. We encouraged them to. Some did, some of them didn't. But I mean, it's just nice not to have all those departments to bicker with each other, I guess, if you know what I'm talking about from traditional.
And to
Yeah,
add to that, oh, go ahead, Tammy.
I'm working with another location that have really looked at Smith for their model, but they're in a traditional building. So they're just looking at, we can't do everything, but what can we do? And so, they've looked at, they've taken their halls and they've renamed them, and they're calling them neighborhoods now, or homes and not halls. And that they have, when they hire somebody, they hire them for the consistent staffing of that hall, and then that's where they would consistently work. And it would be an exception if they worked on another hall. As well as the things that Whitney suggested is, you know, not having a housekeeping department because they do that piece of it. There are certain things that they're working towards with dietary, but they still, of course, because they just have the one kitchen, still have a dietary department. So I mean, I think Whitney's right. It would be really hard to do everything without the physical plant, but I think that there are certain things that, um, you know, that you could move the needle on.
For sure. And so what I was going to add is that essentially very similar to what Tammy said, if you can't do it all, because no two homes are the same. If you can't do it all, what housekeeping trainings can direct caregivers do? What dietary pieces can direct caregivers learn? So that way, whenever residents do have that request, they don't have to go and wait on the kitchen, or if someone spills something, they don't have to wait for the housekeeper to come. They can just immediately take action. So if it doesn't work for your home to have this very consolidated, very efficient team, they can still have the important pieces to the puzzle so that way they're still feeling very empowered, can respond to resident needs very, very quickly. Anything
And
else
one
to,
thing
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was I was just gonna say one thing I'd add that any building could do is those house meetings that we have. So there was a few months in there where these people weren't going to be able to make it, and so we'll have a meeting next month, and so that went on for like 2 or 3 months, and then we finally were like, no, we need to have a meeting. We're going to do the Zoom thing. We're going to have everybody on there, and that was the longest meeting we have ever had because we skipped that time. So if you can get that team together and do those meetings, once a month or once every couple months at least, you hear a lot of things that they're not going to tell you when you're just in passing or something like that. There's just a lot of stuff that comes out and a lot of problems you can resolve and not have to deal with in a bigger capacity later on.
Perfect.
Are your house
Um,
meetings with staff or are they with residents or are they with both?
Well, sometimes the residents join the meeting just because they want to, but it's mainly focused on staff. Mainly our direct caregivers are universal workers for that home.
there was a question about PPJ. So for PPJ reporting, how do you accommodate the time spent not on direct care?
I can answer that. This is Tammy. Um, So when we first went to this model of care, Grace Team is our management company, and so Eric, who is our CFO, actually contacted whoever the powers to be with PBJ to see how that should be done. So we actually do time studies. Um, so we take a chunk of time where somebody observes like a 24 or 48-hour period. Of what's typical for the universal worker, and that's how we divide up the time for PBJ purposes. And that would be just for the universal worker, and then obviously then the nursing hours would all flow to nursing. Does
Rachel,
that
does
answer your
that answer your
question?
question?
Thank you, it does.
Okay, the next question in the chat, what are the hours that staff can sign up for? For example, 6A to 6P.
So both of our homes right now, and this was per something that they wanted to do, it's 5:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. or 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then we have a 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and then a 5:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. are our shifts that we have. It used to be the 6 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 6. Well, it was actually always 6 to 6, but they voted in their homes. They wanted to change that up just a little bit because of the time of supper and having a shift change right at supper time when they're the ones cooking and serving. It made it better for them. So we've just stuck with that.
You guys have all had great questions. Do you have any more questions while we've got the team here?
I apologize. Did I miss the answer to how many elders you're typically serving in each of your households? With that two universal worker, one nurse type pattern?
We have 11 in each home.
And there's 2 homes.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there would actually be one nurse for both homes. So the nurse goes back and forth.
Any other questions?
I was gonna add something, JC. Hopefully this has not been touched on. I had to jump out a couple times, but um, the this um criteria or core or whatever you want to call it, actually like it can really influence a lot of the other ones. Like the one of the big pieces I'm thinking of is um like hot food availability. So if you're thinking about I know a lot of homes, one of the struggles with the food core is having food available 24/7 or having hot food available, say in the middle of the night if a resident wanted it. And so with if you have versatile workers, um, if say nursing staff are trained on safe food handling, they can make pancakes at 2 a.m. or whatever it may be that a resident wants. And so yeah, I was just thinking about how having universal workers really kind of ebbs and flows into a lot of the other peak criteria as well. So that was just one that I was thinking of.
That's a really good comment, Madison. I know the other home that I'm working with, that's something that they've started was training on safe food handling and culinary practices with their floor staff, even though they are in a traditional building. Prior, their kitchen was locked at night, and so they couldn't even get in it. So they've had some big changes there, but that's a that's a really good point.
All right, any other questions? We'll give just a minute here to see if anyone wants to put anything in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute and ask as well.
Where are you located?
We're located in Smith Center, Kansas, north central Kansas. If anyone ever want to come up and tour or something like that, I mean, we do that quite a bit. So if you just want to be able to actually see how it works, definitely get a hold of us.
Right. Well, if there are no additional, oh, we do have a question. Um, for the department manager, do you have the normal charting
What do you mean the normal charting?
for MDS? Is what Deanna
Oh,
said.
yes. Yeah. I mean, the universal workers, they do have quite a bit more charting to do, but yeah, they do all the charting for the MDS with the ADLs. We have it set up in their POC that they chart off on what the diet is. And we have all of their likes, dislikes, if they're on a different texture diet, if they're on a therapeutic diet, if they have supplements, they have to document all that too in their POC with having that universal worker title, if that answers your question.
Does that answer your question, Deanna? Perfect. She says yes. How
Okay.
many total staff do you guys have? Is a question I have.
With our PRN pool, I think around 30 total. Well, that's with our assisted. No, that's not. About 30 total. Yeah.
And about how many would you say are PRN out of that?
No, probably 6, somewhere in there.
That's awesome. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you to the team at Sunporch for sharing and giving us some insight and some inspiration. Oh, another question. What's your policy for call-in?
For if a staff member calls in, I mean, just like anywhere else, if you're sick, you're sick, you can't come in. We do tell our staff, we make sure that they have a schedule or a way to look at the schedule so they can try to call the PRN pool or their other coworkers in the home to see if they're able to cover it. And then if they're not able to cover it, they're to call the sun porch and let the charge nurse know. And then the charge nurse would let the on-call know that we have a call in and there's nobody else to fill the shift.
Does that answer your question, Deanna? How does the on-call work?
So the department managers take a rotation on call a week at a time. Usually it's from a Monday morning until it's Monday morning. They take that call. And that's just they just go through a rotation of that. It's usually like every 4 weeks is what it ends up being, 4 to 5 weeks.
Any other questions? Okay. Again, thank you to your team for being here and answering questions and sharing what you guys do. Um, this was recorded, so we'll be putting it up on the Peak website, on the resources Lunch and Learn tab. If you have any questions, I'm sure Whitney wouldn't mind if I shared her contact information. Um, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might think of later. So, thank you again for presenting. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.